If there's one thing DJI is good at, it's stuffing tons of features and functionality into really small drones. And there's nothing that showcases this talent better than the company's new ultra-portable Spark drone. Despite the fact that this thing is no bigger than your average Twinkie, DJI somehow managed to stuff it full of many of the same goodies that you'd find on the company's bigger, bulkier, and more expensive drones. Let's check it out.
Arguably the biggest addition is the Spark's huge suite of automated flight modes. This thing was designed from the ground up to be super easy to fly, so in addition to DJI's standard offerings like Tap Fly and Active Track, this drone sports a bundle of brand new modes that allow pretty much anybody to capture really good looking cinematic shots without any prior piloting skills. So aside from the standard stuff that's included in every DJI drone now, the Spark has 4 new flight options. There's Rocket, where the camera will ascend really quickly with the camera pointing straight down. Then there's Droney, where the drone will fly up and backward but stay locked on the subject. There's Circle, which is basically it'll orbit you no matter where you go. And then there's this really cool one called Helix, where it'll kind of orbit outward in a spiral but stay locked on the subject. But that's not all. The Spark is also equipped with a vision system that allows it to recognize things like objects, faces, and even gestures. Individually, these aren't really all that special, but taken together, they allow for some pretty sweet tricks. Let's say, for example, that you just want to take a selfie. All you gotta do is put the Spark in your hand and extend your arm. The drone will then scan your face, recognize that it's being operated by a human and that you're holding it at a safe distance, and then it'll lift off from your palm. From there, you can reposition the drone by holding up your hand and just moving it in the direction that you want to fly. And if you want a wider shot, you just wave goodbye and it'll fly up and backward a few dozen feet. Then, when you're ready to take a snapshot, you can just make a picture frame with your thumbs and forefingers, and the drone will recognize that, count down backwards from 3, and then take a snapshot. When you're done, to bring it back, you can just hold your arms up in the air to make a Y shape with your body, and the Spark will fly back within reach, and you can put your hand underneath, and it'll land in your palm. All of that stuff can be done without using a smartphone or a controller, which is pretty freaking cool. The Spark has a lot going for it, but there is one downside that we just can't skip over. Unlike just about every other drone in this category, the Spark doesn't have a 4K camera. The max video resolution on this thing is 1080p at 30 frames per second, which isn't necessarily bad, it just isn't 4K. That said, the Spark does have a bunch of other features that the competition doesn't, like a 2-axis gimbal for stabilizing your video. There's also an obstacle avoidance system that lets you fly really confidently, and all of those nifty gesture recognition abilities that I mentioned earlier. So if you don't mind that slight hit in video quality, the Spark would be a fantastic drone to stuff in your backpack and bring along on your next adventure.